Have you ever been in a conversation with someone from another culture and just felt like you were missing something? Like you're playing a game, but you don't know the rules? Well, in this explainer, we're going to decode that invisible software of the mind, the cultural codes that guide how we all think and act without us even realizing it.
So here's what we're going to do. First, we'll talk about why decoding these differences is so important in the first place. Then, we'll jump into the 5 key dimensions that are really the core of this whole thing. After that, we'll see how it all plays out in the real world, at work. And finally, we'll talk about how to use this knowledge as a tool, not a weapon.
We live in this super connected world. It's never been easier to talk to someone on the other side of the planet. So why do we still misunderstand each other so easily? It can feel like you've walked into a room where everyone else got a rule book, but you.
Well, it all comes down to those invisible rules, those really deep cultural values that tell us how the world is supposed to work. And they affect everything. One researcher actually made his life's work to draw a map of this hidden territory.
Yep, back in the 70s, Dr. Geert Hofstede took on this massive project. He looked at data from IBM employees in over 50 countries, and what he found gave us this incredible framework for actually comparing national cultures in a structured way. So, let's get into it.
All right, so Hofstede's research gave us several of these cultural dimensions. We're going to focus on the big 5, the ones that really started it all.
First up, the Power Distance Index. This is all about how a culture feels about hierarchy. It really just asks one simple question. Are we cool with the fact that power isn't shared equally?
And wow, the difference is huge. In a high-power distance country like Malaysia, which scores a perfect 100 on this scale, a strict hierarchy is just normal. You don't question the boss. But in a low-power distance country like Austria or Israel, challenging your boss or collaborating as equals, that's seen as a good thing.
Okay, next is probably the most famous one of them all, individualism versus collectivism. This one gets right to the heart of how we see ourselves in relation to others.
So, it really boils down to this. Is the culture all about the I, or is it about the we? In a place like the United States, it's all about your personal goals, your success. But in a collectivistic culture, say Panama or China, the group comes first, always. Loyalty isn't just a word, it's a two-way street.
All right, this next one's name can be a little misleading. It's not really about gender. It's about what a society values. Does it prize more masculine traits like being assertive and competitive, or more feminine ones like cooperation and quality of life?
Just look at this contrast. Japan has a masculinity score of 95. It's a society that is driven by competition and success. But then you look at the other end of the spectrum. You have Sweden, with a score of just 5. There, it's all about work-life balance, collaboration, and making decisions together.
So, how do we feel about the future? I mean, it's unpredictable, right? The Uncertainty Avoidance Index measures how okay a culture is with that ambiguity. Do we need a rule for everything, or are we comfortable just figuring it out as we go?
Countries with high uncertainty avoidance, like Greece or Japan, they try to make life as predictable as they can. They love detailed plans, rules, and regulations. On the other hand, cultures with low scores are way more relaxed, more open to change, and just generally less stressed about what tomorrow might bring.
And finally, how does a culture think about time itself? This is what long-term versus short-term orientation is all about. Is the focus on future rewards or on traditions from the past and what's happening right now?
And you can really see the different mindsets here. Short-term cultures, like the US, tend to value tradition and want to see results fast, like quarterly profit reports. But long-term cultures, like China, are playing the long game. They value persistence, saving, and making plans for a future that might be decades away.
Okay, so we have all this theory, but how does it actually show up in our day-to-day lives? Let's talk about the workplace, because this is where these abstract ideas get really, really real.
For instance, just think about how we reward people. The whole idea of an Employee of the Month award. That is 100% an individualistic concept. It shines a spotlight on one person. But in a more collectivistic culture, that might actually be embarrassing. Rewarding the whole team is way more effective.
Or what about motivation? A company from a masculine culture might think big bonuses and cutthroat competition is the way to go. But if they try that in a feminine culture, they might find that their employees care way more about work-life balance and having a supportive team. The incentives just won't work.
And here's the thing, a business plan that's praised for being flexible in one country could be totally rejected in another. Just imagine a cool, disruptive startup from a low UAI culture trying to launch in a country that needs a detailed 20-point plan just to feel safe about a decision. It's a recipe for frustration.
Okay, we've gone through this really powerful framework, but, and this is a big but, we have to talk about what this model isn't. Because if we're not careful, a helpful tool can turn into a pretty harmful weapon.
This quote right here, it hits the nail on the head. It is so tempting to take these dimensions and just create these neat little boxes for entire countries. But that's a trap. These explanations can easily become lazy stereotypes.
Look, the Hofstede model is a great starting point, but we have to remember what it is. It's describing averages, not people. No single person is a perfect clone of their country's score, and culture is alive, it changes. It's not some static thing frozen in time.
You know, it's funny, the word bias itself literally means sideways or against the grain. It's a view that isn't straight, and that's the danger. We have to fight our own biases, especially ethnocentrism, that feeling that our way is the right way. We can't use these frameworks to put complex people into simple boxes.
And really, that's the whole point. The goal of learning this stuff isn't to label people. It's to have a better toolkit. It's about learning to ask better questions, to listen with more curiosity, and to approach differences with understanding, not judgment. That's how we use this knowledge to build bridges, not walls.